We talk about this player a lot. A lot of people joke about him in the NBA because they don't like his play style. But he's one of my favorite players, and I'm probably his biggest fan. This player is James Harden. Do you think James Harden is unfairly criticized?
Okay, so I want to start out by saying it really depends what you think is unfair criticism. If you think that him dominating the regular season like he does, and I read a stat that I think Curry's number one in like not performing as well as he does in the regular season. James Harden is number two. There's two sides of the coin that you could look at this. So you could look at it this way. You could look at it that James Harden has he probably honestly all time, you can literally say he's probably a top 10 regular season player of all time. His stats are ridiculous. He scores 36 a game, 30 a game. Team always makes the playoffs. Has always made the playoffs since he's been in Houston. But the other side of the coin is, okay, players like LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, these guys step up in the postseason. I think a lot of what James Harden is criticized for is because of his lack of play in the postseason. But then again, since we've been arguing about this a really long time, you've kind of slightly changed my mind a little bit. Because if you think about it, James Harden routinely had to go against the Warriors. Like, that was the team that he had to beat. And honestly, nobody in the past 4 years, nobody beat them.
Nobody.
He did take them to 7. He took them to 6 one year. So he's been really close. I think his performance the 1 year in 16 when they played in Game 7, I felt like he should have played better than what he did. Both games they were up. I felt like if he would have closed that out, his legacy just would have skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I mean, do I think he's unfairly criticized? I think it depends. There's two different types of fans. Like River, our other podcast host, he really kind of strictly bases your career on what you do in the playoffs. The regular season doesn't really matter to him. And Joel and me, I think what you do in the regular season matters because that sets you up in the playoffs. So I think just because you have a bad 4 games shouldn't necessarily mean that, like, oh, you're trash. You know what I mean? Like, I don't respect him because he doesn't play. It's 4 games. It's a 4-game sample size. So exactly. In reality, I think James Harden is unfairly criticized. But on the other side of things, I can see why, you consider this guy one of the best players in the world. And usually the LeBrons, the Kawhis, and all these other elite players, they step their game up in the postseason. I think people are waiting for James Harden to step his game up in the postseason. What do you think?
I think James Harden is definitely unfairly criticized because, okay, regular season, there isn't a debate that he's one of the best, if not the best player in the NBA in the regular season. I mean, in the last 3 years, 2017 to 2019, he's averaged 34 points per game, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and for people that say he doesn't play defense, 1.8 steals per game. So he's not a bad defender like people like to label him as. That's the narrative, but that's not true. And those stats, 34 points per game and 8 assists per game, no player in NBA history has ever put up those numbers in a 3-year span. Not Kobe, not D-Wade, not LeBron, not MJ. Like, scoring-wise, the only person to do it was Michael Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Michael Jordan, he had the points, but he doesn't have the assists like James Harden. And as for the other players, Kobe Bryant, I'm pretty sure only averaged 30 once in his career. I think
4 times. For a season?
4 times?
No, I'm sorry. Pardon me, 3, because he had 1 year 35, 33, and 32.
Oh, okay. My fault. That's Kobe, right?
Yeah, Kobe.
Okay.
Bryant.
James Harden has been doing this for the last 3-4 years, right?
It's honestly become routine for us.
Yeah, and we totally disregard it at this point. But James Harden right now averaging 34 points per game and 8 assists in the last 3 years. No player in NBA history has ever done that. So by far, regular season, he's a great performer. Absolutely. But also the narrative about him has been he doesn't perform in the playoffs. The finals against the Heat really stained his career, even though he was a bench player at that point.
He was a pup.
I have my friend Allen. Like, we argue about James Harden and Dwayne Wade all the time. And he always brings up the finals up. And I'm like, James Harden wasn't even a starter.
Yeah.
You can't really put that on him. But that's besides the point. The point is, like you said, the teams that he's faced, There was a year that Golden State went 16-0 in the playoffs, or I think
15-1,
16-1 or 15-1, whatever it was. I think it's 16-1
because the Cavs got one game from them in the finals. But I was telling River the other day, they dominated that entire postseason.
Yeah, and Harden the very next year, their team took them to 7 games and could have won if Chris Paul didn't get injured.
Good chance they could have won.
James Harden, and with Chris Paul, and even this past year with Chris Paul again last year, they've beat the Warriors 5 times. That's more than any other teams combined beat them. The Cavs with LeBron, Kevin Love, Kyrie, Tristan Thompson, they only got a game. So
and they had to shoot lights out to get that
and
game.
Also, it's not like James Harden played bad in these series. This past year, he averaged 35 points per game. He had better numbers against the Warriors, points, field goal percentage, assists, I'm pretty sure rebounds, and steals than Kawhi. But yet the narrative is that James Harden choked and Kawhi Leonard is this dynasty killer. In my opinion, it's just winning bias. Because Kawhi won, we're biased about it.
And his game is more liked around the league, you know what I mean?
Since he won, we're more biased around it. But the bottom line is that James Harden is unfairly criticized, and while he has had moments before that he's choked, that is not the case now. Like, he has played way better in the playoffs, and regular season for his career, I think he averages 29. In the postseason, he averaged 28.6 for his career. And that's including in OKC when he was averaging 16 and like the other numbers. So bench, so it's not fair. James Harden is one of the best players, and I think he should be appreciated as such.
Like I said, it really depends on the fans and like what you hold him against, like his contemporaries. If you're gonna compare James Harden to like how LeBron or Kawhi Leonard does it, you also have to look at the situations too. To your point in the Kawhi argument a bunch of times, Kawhi has really, for his whole career, really had pretty good teams. You know what I mean? He has pretty good teams. LeBron, you can say he's had good teams. Probably not as much as Kawhi's had it for his career, but LeBron's had good teams. I mean, James Harden was in when the first year in Houston. I mean, I saw his roster. Who like DeMontis, like these are players that they're not household names, and he's taking you to the playoffs. So I mean, I'm one that as I watch basketball more, I'm starting to appreciate more what James Harden does, because the second that he touched down in the West, the Rockets haven't missed the playoffs. And he's done it with injury-plagued rosters one year. He's done it with his second best player being Dwight Howard, who was on the decline at that point. So, I mean, it depends. It depends what you're holding James Harden to. I mean, if you're holding him to, like, one of the greatest of all times, then I guess the criticism is a little fair. But if you're just going to just base his entire career off a couple postseason, series, then I don't think that's good. I think you can't ignore what he's done in the regular season and what he's done for his team. And
you made a good point, because if you're going to hold James Harden to the standard of one of the greatest of all time, what does that mean? So I don't know what it is that's so unpopular about James Harden that like fans hate him.
They just think he dominates the ball too much.
Yeah, but you know what's funny about that is that Luka does that now, and he's loved.
Yeah,
Luka plays exactly the same as James Harden. Maybe not exactly, because he's a better. I think he's much more of a magician with the basketball when he passes the ball. But their game style is the same. They isolate. They get to the basket. They shoot step back threes. They shoot threes.
Pass the ball.
They play efficient basketball. But yet Luka is loved and James Harden is hated, universally hated by fans. It's a weird situation.
It really is.